The story of our venerable and celebrated ancestor Phineas Walcott Cook begins in the most beautiful corner of New England. Phineas was born in 1819 in Goshen, Connecticut, to Phineas and Irene Churchill Cook. The land Phineas and his family lived on, and the nearby land on which his grandfather Daniel Cook lived, had been in the Cook family for 5 generations. Phineas's great-great-grandparents, Joseph and Eleanor Cook, had moved to the recently available land in Litchfield County from Wallingford, Connecticut in 1750. The Cook land was at the top of Town Hill near Dog Pond in Goshen. Phineas remembered the area pleasantly. The long meadows, groves of maple trees which gave them sugar and molasses, gently rolling hills, and streams and creeks to fish in.
The good old spot on which my eyes first beheld the light of the sun, and where I spent the days of my childhood, was situated on a beautiful plain. Many a day of pleasure has been spent in angling for trout and cutting the long and slender sprouts which had grown the year before, and rubbing the bark and making whistles which, in time of spring when the leaves were just verging from the bud, would seem to make all nature rejoice to echo the sound. Many a long night I have passed in company with my father and brothers bobbing for eels.
Phineas lived 1 mile from the district schoolhouse and went to school in the winters, except when it was too cold and snowy. The snow was known to sometimes fall 2 to 3 feet in a single night. Phineas grew up working hard with his family on his father's farm. Phineas's father was working hard to save his farm, which he and his brother Amasa had inherited from his father, Captain Daniel Cook. The former Revolutionary War captain had died young at age 49, leaving his farm and his debts to his 2 sons. The sons had married sisters Irene and Polly Churchill from nearby Woodbury, Connecticut. The 2 couples worked hard to make the farm profitable, but just 8 years after their father died, the brothers faced another tragedy. Amasa was thrown from his wagon while working in the fields and died. He was only 35 years old. After Amasa's death, Phineas's father continued striving to make the farm profitable and pay off his debts. Young Phineas was born 2 years after the tragic death of his uncle Amasa, and all of his young life in Goshen was spent with the fate of the farm weighing heavily on the family. Besides learning to farm, Phineas was also apprenticed out to learn the carpenter's trade. He learned quickly and did quality work even as a teenager. These skills would help him make a living throughout his life, and there are buildings still standing that benefited from Phineas's skills, such as the Beehive House in Salt Lake City and the Logan Temple in Logan, Utah. In Connecticut, Phineas's grandfathers had been a great influence on him in his youth. His mother's father, Jonathan Churchill, gave the family money to try to help save their farm. Phineas remembers his grandfather also talking to him about his faith in Jesus Christ. The inscription on his headstone quotes from the book of Revelation, "Blessed are the dead which die in the Lord, for they rest from their labors, and their works do follow them." His other grandfather, Captain Daniel Cook, had died 10 years before young Phineas was born, but Phineas's father had told him stories of the war hero.
Just before Lafayette came, they were almost starved, and he had news from home that they had some pork. He asked the captain to let him go home and get some. He told him he could not spare him, but he resolved to go. So that night he started and was gone for 8 or 10 days, and came back with a backload of pork. He was then taken for deserting and court-martialed and found guilty. He was asked if he had anything to say, why the sentence of death should not be passed upon him. He said he had suffered enough to die 1,000 deaths, but he had toughed it through, and if they wished to kill him for what he had done, they might try. But he should fight his way through it and make his escape or lose his life. So they consulted sometime upon the matter. Finally he was liberated, and he went and divided his pork all around, and they had a good feast.
Here is Captain Daniel Cook's headstone in the Goshen Cemetery. The inscription reads, "Hark, my gay friends, that solemn toll speaks the departure of a soul. 'Tis gone, that's all, we know not where, or how the unbodied soul doth fare." Thus passed the New England years of our honored Phineas. His colonial ancestors and upbringing left him and us a legacy of pioneering, hard work, determination, patriotism, and faith to remember and live up to.